The brain doesn't segment between like, this is existential, this is not. The brain just looks at like, that didn't work out. You suck. Never make this decision again. And that's how the brain does it. And I had to relearn this lesson, that the quality of a decision is based on the reason the decision was made, not the outcome of the decision.
What if you could build a business in the modern world as big or as small as you want without having to compromise the things that were the most important to you in the very beginning? This is the Wealthy Consultant Talks podcast with Taylor Welch and Mike Walker, as they share with you today their learning lessons from stories in their experiences over the past 10 to 15 years and share with you right here, right now. Let's get into it.
You have to let yourself follow, especially when you get into the habit of trusting your intuition and trusting your instincts. You have to make sure and guard against this obligation. Mark my words, it's obligation. That's what it is. It's all obligation. I have to do this. Why? Because I've done this. What? Well, I have to stay in this lane of work because look, this is what I've done for 8 years. No, that's called sunk cost bias, and it's crippling if you allow that obligation. See, we think about obligation in regards to other people, and we think about obligation in terms of I have to do this for them and for that. But what about the obligation, the unhealthy obligation we hold with ourselves simply because we've been doing something and we don't want to invest the time to change. So long story short, Napoleon obviously doesn't struggle with this because he's like, this. Like, I'm going to start a zoo. I'm going to open a bubble gum company. I'm going to do lumber. I'm going to be in coal. He's like just following. You know, we see the throughput at the very end of his life. So he gets the high up position at the coal company, and he writes this. This is interesting. This is the first time we see Napoleon not being bombarded by external things, but rather making a calculated decision internally before the circumstances actually force him to do it. He says, I quit that position because the work was too easy and I was performing it with too little effort. I saw myself drifting into the habit of inertia. I felt myself becoming accustomed to taking life easy, and I knew that the next step would be regression. All right, what did we just talk about? Humans hate regression. We hate it. And most of the time we hate regression because it is thrust upon us. But you get to a point in your life where you realize and you notice and you pay attention to this. If I stay in this season, position, whatever it is, then I'm going to become accustomed to inertia, and the next step is regression. It is not healthy for an athlete to win a championship and then not find a competitor that could potentially beat and threaten them and then go up against that one. When you stay in that championship mode for too long, then you end up getting beat. You just don't have to go very far to look at this. You look at Conor McGregor. This gets a little too used to being the champ. And when you get too used to being the champ, you lose the champ. You lose it. And so this is something I've tried in business, to not rehearse just the records or the wins, or I'm rehearsing the things that I want to do that I have not yet accomplished. That keeps me sharp and it keeps me dedicated. And so he's at this place. He has a great job and he quits because it's too easy and he's bored. And he writes, this proved to be the most important turning point in my life, although it was followed by 10 years of effort, which brought almost every conceivable grief that a human heart can experience. Okay, so how many of you judge the quality of your choices only by the outcome? You just say like, this is a great choice because look at what happened. It worked out. Oh, that was a bad choice because look at what happened. It didn't work out. So I'll tell you guys a story real fast. I like taking my primary residence, and what I do is I'll typically convert them into a first lien HELOC. You don't need to understand the financial pieces of this, but I like converting them into first liens and paying them off. So I did this with my old house. I've had some employees who have done this, and we got the new house in January of 2022. And in September of 2022, I converted into a HELOC, and I was going to just pay it off over time. And the HELOC had a rate when we converted it of 5%. And then it went up to 8 and then 9. And my prior loan on it was 3%. And this might seem inconsequential to you. Like, this might not seem like a big deal, but I pride myself on making good decisions. And I had the most terrible time with this ever. I was like, I have lost my touch. I converted out of one of the lowest rates in history into a floating rate, and I can't go back to that. And why do I suck at timing? And you may be like, dude, Taylor, you're talking about a mortgage. They're not talking about a serious issue. It doesn't matter. The brain doesn't segment between like, this is existential, this is not. The brain just looks at like, that didn't work out. You suck. Never make this decision again. And that's how the brain does it. And I had to relearn this lesson, that the quality of a decision is based on the reason the decision was made, not the outcome of the decision. You have Napoleon doing the exact same thing here, where he does the right thing and we respect him. We're like, oh, that's awesome. He quit because he doesn't want to regress. How committed to his principles he must have been. What a great leader. Somebody who is more worried about their future than they are their comfort. What a great leader. And then if you just skip forward like 2 months, he has 10 years of effort, which brought him every conceivable grief that the human heart can experience. Don't judge the choice by the outcome. Judge the choice by the quality and the reasoning behind the choice. If you judge the choice just by the outcome, it means your time horizons are too short.